I have Gigi here, my little poodle puppy. She's wanting to play as well, so I'll be distracted between live stream and playing with her and her ball. Where's her ball? Footage. She wants the other ball. Anyway, let's get right into it. So this is my live stream that I'll be doing at least 3 to 4 times in a week, where I will discuss how I want to take my photography and videography hobby and passion to a full-time content creator profession. And with that obviously comes gigs, photo shoots, editing, all of the things that's involved with photography and videography. I don't have a mic right now, so hopefully you can hear me well enough. I put on some background music. This is my first kind of live stream setup. This is what I have to work with, so it's gonna have to do. But let's get into it. So I think the first time I really enjoyed taking pictures was when I got my first smartphone that had a camera on it, which was a Samsung U700. I think that was back in 2014 or 15. Phone had a camera on it. I dabbled in it, took some pictures here and there. I was always interested in taking photos of small macro shots. Obviously, smartphones back then weren't as great as what we have now. But you know, back then everything was amazing. You're young, you're impressionable, so whatever you had available to you, that was amazing. Few years go by, and my mother buys a Nikon camera. I asked her if I could borrow it. Ended up keeping it. I just shot on automatic mode all the time. I don't know what f-stop was, I don't know what aperture was, I don't know what exposure time was, or shutter speed, ISO. None of these things were familiar to me. And I'm not a kind of guy that likes to read, so I never took the time to read a little bit about photography and educating myself. I just took the camera and started shooting. Whatever came out, and it was, I would say 80% of the time, it was not good. But we kept on going. I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed capturing moments. So as time went on, continued getting new phones, better cameras, started learning a little bit more about exposure, because you have the little exposure slider on your camera phone. Still didn't know much about shutter speed or ISO or f-stop or focal point, or even composition. I was not familiar with composition either. I didn't know what that was about. I thought you just took your phone, snap the picture, send it to Instagram. Obviously I have a full-time job as well, which is being a chef full-time. So that's the majority of my time is being consumed from being a chef. So many years go by, I finally moved to Malaysia, and I met my fiancée Lenny, and she has a Fujifilm camera. Not sure which model, but this was the first time I kind of got or tried to learn a little bit about the mechanics of my camera. This camera was very nice because you had all the f-stops on the dial, you had all the shutter speeds on a dial. So I just played around with these things, these dials, not knowing exactly what they did. Just adjusting until I thought it was a good quality picture, which meant my ISO was super high sometimes, or my shutter speed was super slow sometimes, or my focal point was too close or too far, so didn't get a sharp image. And then we went to Bali in 2023 for our vacation. and before I went I decided to buy a drone, and the drone I bought was the DJI Air 2S. Still have it until now. Hasn't failed me. Funny story, the first time I flew it in Bali was at our villa, and at the villa a lot of trees all around, very overgrown, with a small swimming pool just in front of our door. But I was persistent to try and fly this drone right then and there, so set it up, got it ready to launch, had it in, what was it, normal mode. So normal mode, so with normal mode at least you have the functionality of the sensors telling you that there's something around the drone. But I was not used to the sensitivity or how the controls work or how the drone responded, how fast it would react to obstacles. So anyhow, set it up, took off, flew over the pool because that was the clear area, sent it up. As I went up, it hit the branch of the tree. Bam, straight into the pool. And that's the first day I am in Bali. I'm like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? Grabbed it out of the pool, took out the battery, let it stand outside the whole night, let it bake in the sun for the next day, the whole day, make sure everything is properly dry, make sure the battery is dry, make sure there's no condensation in the camera, make sure all the propeller motors are dry. So the second day, I decided to try it out again. Popped in a battery, not the one that fell in the water. Popped in the other battery because I have 2 extra batteries. I got the Flying More combo, so you get 3 total batteries. Let me just quickly get to the bowl for her. Here, Steve. Right, got 2 more, so 3 more if she wants to play again. So turn it on. Luckily, it was in perfect working condition up until today. Still no problem, but the battery didn't work. Luckily for me, DJI was kind enough to replace that battery for me. And that's when I started to kind of dabble in the pro mode. So obviously there you have the exposure, ISO, and a few other things that you can play around with. I started taking a lot of aerial photography. I like taking photos of the landscapes, the vast landscapes, doing time lapses at night of Tronos Tower, and just kind of see what I could capture with the drone. And that really spiked my interest in photography and videography. With taking all of these videos and photos with the drone, I kind of had to teach myself how to do Photoshop and Lightroom. Mostly Lightroom. I'm not that knowledgeable in Photoshop yet. One of my favorite pictures I actually took with the drone is this one right over here. So this is Merdeka 118, and it's a great picture. Had a nice amount of clouds in the sky that evening, and the lighting was just perfect. Everything was just perfect. Got the Merdeka Tower right in the center. And I started posting on Instagram. I started tagging one of the accounts on Instagram called Amazing Kuala Lumpur. They started reposting my work, and I really started getting some traction on my Instagram. And then I decided to start this journey on YouTube. And that was back in 2023, end of 2022. So it's about 2 years now since I've started. Managed to accumulate around 800 subscribers, but I'm still struggling with the YouTube Shorts and 4,000 watch hours. So I'm hoping that this series will kind of contribute to my 4,000 watch hours. And the thing is, even though I don't have anyone on my live stream right now, I'm humble enough to admit that, but I'm also doing this video to post it on my YouTube channel, so it will become a series, and hopefully people will watch it later on once I publish it. But then moving on from the drone, I decided to purchase my first full frame camera. I've been talking to my fiance about I wanted to buy a Sony camera. We had discussed it, and you know, it was in the air. The camera that was the option at that time was APC camera, 6500 series or the 6700 series, which was just newly launched last year. After doing some research and looking at different types of cameras, I decided I wanted a full frame camera because I want to do a one-time purchase and make sure I can use this camera for at least 4 to 5 years. Luckily, we have a lot of second-hand camera shops here in Malaysia, and I purchased my camera 1 week before my birthday this year, 2024, and the camera I decided to pick up was the Sony A9 Mark I. And when I bought it, I only had the kit lens. I mean, at that point, I just had my first full frame camera. I took photos and it looked amazing. Even with the kit lens, I was like blown away with it. I remember the photo that really blew my mind was a photo of a lotus flower. I was shooting on automatic, but I think the lighting, the composition, the exposure, the shutter speed, the ISO, everything was just perfect for that photo. Everything was in focus and super sharp, and when I put it on my laptop and I saw the picture, I was blown away. Excuse me, let me just get Gigi. Alright. So yeah, I was absolutely blown away. Let me see if I can quickly bring up this photo. So yeah, that was taken in Malaysia, and when I saw the sharpness and the detail, the color, I was just absolutely blown away. And I shot on the camera in auto mode for I think about 2.5 months, until I really kind of forced myself to start using manual mode. And since I started using manual mode, I kind of watched a lot of YouTube tutorials, YouTube shorts, started reading a little bit about camera settings, how focal length, how exposure, how shutter speed, ISO, all of this affects the picture you want to take. So I remember I went to work and I took my camera to work, and one of my chefs, also a very avid photographer, he took the camera and he asked me if he could take some pictures, and I was like, sure, no problem. But before that, I also took some pictures in manual mode, and every picture I took was super grainy, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I thought something was wrong with my camera. I thought, wow, I bought the second-hand camera and it can't shoot in manual mode. It's terrible. And then he also shot. I thought, okay, maybe he can get it better in manual mode because he has some experience taking photos on a APC camera. Unfortunately, I think he hadn't had enough experience with a Sony camera, and every picture he took on manual mode also turned out super grainy, so that really got me worried. And I started googling why are my photos super grainy, why the detail is not great, why is it not sharp, why it looks just absolutely blown out. And that's kind of where I familiarized myself with ISO. And what happened was the camera shutter speed was very high, and f-stop was very big. So I think it was on f11 or f22, one of the two, and that kind of forced the camera to blow out the ISO to, I don't know, super high, because the Sony Alpha A9 has a super high ISO. And so I played around, I changed the shutter speed, I changed the f-stop to open up completely, which with the lens I had then was, I think, 4 on the kit lens. And then I brought the ISO all the way down to 100. Took a picture in manual mode, looked at it, and I was like, thank God, it's not the camera's problem, I'm the problem. Kept on playing with that, forced myself not to shoot in automatic anymore. I kind of had to learn quite quickly because we were going on a safari trip in South Africa. And just before we left to South Africa to go on the safari, we went for a safari, but the main reason we went was because of my best friend's wedding. So I took some of his pictures as well. I got a really beautiful picture of him and his bride walking down the staircase while everyone was throwing the confetti and the rice. I'll share some of these photos on my community blog on YouTube, so you can go check that out. And obviously we had the safari. So safari, you're in a jeep, you have to stay in the jeep because there's wild animals around you, and they're not always as close as you want them to be. So I decided to swap out my kit lens. I traded it in and I topped up to buy this telephoto lens. So this telephoto lens was my first big purchase after the camera. This is the 24mm to 240mm telephoto lens, 3.5 to 6.3 f-stop. So at 24 it's 3.5, complete zoom it's 6.3, which was great for me again because, like I said, this was my first time owning a full frame camera, first time owning a lens that cost almost more than my phone. And I kind of had to force myself to learn the shutter speeds, the ISOs, the f-stop, all of that, to get great shots of the wildlife that we were going to see on the safari. This was the first time for my fiance also to go to South Africa, and I really wanted to collect all of those memories, not just of the safari, but of us in South Africa, spending time together, her meeting my parents or my mom. And from there I just really started enjoying playing with manual mode, understanding how to bring the subjects closer and further away with the telephoto lens as well, with the compression. And it was quite good. Well, it's quite good for macro photography as well, but you have to be quite far away from the subject. The downfall with that is the f-stop goes up, so you have a smaller amount of light hitting your sensor, so you have to kind of increase your shutter speed, which if you do handheld and you move around, it might affect your image not to be sharp. It might be a little bit blurry, a little bit out of focus. Or another option is you shoot up your ISO. Obviously, you mentioned before, if you increase your ISO, you have the chance of getting a grainier photo. Some photographers go for that style. For me, I want the sharpest possible image. So it wasn't that great for getting a super sharp macro photo, but I worked with what I had. Further on, I saved up a little bit of money again, and because I really like taking photos of small detail items, especially when I go to the forest, I'm always on the ground looking for small mushrooms, looking for small insects, flowers. I love taking pictures of flowers, isolating like a small branch or a newly blossomed leaf or flower. And so I saved up some money, did some research, and I got this lens. This is the 90mm macro GOSS lens from Sony, 2.8 fixed f-stop. You can adjust it all the way to 22, I believe. And yeah, since I got this lens, it's been on for 90% of the time since I got it. I love the telephoto lens. Telephoto lens is great for landscapes, great for getting to places where you can't reach. Bird photography with the telephoto lens is amazing. Only downside again is the f-stop. So using a tripod when doing this kind of shots, landscape or bird photography, tripod is your best friend. This will allow you to have a more stable camera, which will allow you to increase your shutter speed without movement, so you get enough light in without any movement, so your picture remains sharp. One downside of that is for bird photography is birds move around all the time, so it's quite tricky, but getting the hang of it. And also doing some really cool shots with the telephoto lens where I do a long exposure, so high shutter speed at night. So as you take the picture, you zoom out or you zoom in, and it kind of makes these light streaks. You can see some of those photos that I posted on my Instagram. It's also nature.photogram09, and yeah, I like to post most of my pictures there. But obviously with YouTube, you need to create some video content, and yeah, so I think this is quite a good introduction, good first episode to introduce myself and to introduce you to what I'm currently using. So before we go, I'll just quickly run through that. We start with a tripod, so landscape photography, macro photography, bird photography, anything where you need to have a steady hand, keep the body of the camera as still as possible, tripod is your best friend. The one I'm using is from Ulanzi. It's not the best, but it's a start. One downfall that I've noticed for this one is the clamps. I have some cracks in the clamps already. So on these clamps, they're already cracking. But I'm going to use it until I cannot use it anymore. Then after that, obviously I have my Ulanzi bag as well, which is able to house my camera with the 90mm on or the 240 on. Space for the other lens to be inside as well. I'm able to keep my DJI drone with the controller. I also keep my 2 spare batteries. I keep my MacBook Pro laptop charger in there as well, the controller for the DJI remote, and also my cleaning kit. With that, there's also a lot of step up and step down rings from K&F, because I'm using a UV filter and I'm also using an ND filter. Especially I'm using the ND filter when I'm shooting midday, when the light's really bright. Also at nighttime, if you want to do moon photography, the ND filter actually helps because the moon is super bright. And then if you want to do a long exposure on a waterfall, so the water is really nice and silky soft, that also helps with the ND filter. the UV filter is just basically there to protect my lens from scratches and any damage that might occur when I'm out in the forest. I also like this feature that I have on the UV filter. It's the magnetic lens cap, so it just pops on right there. Really simple, really easy to use. So I got the step up and step down ring set from K&F as well, so I can adjust it because my 240 is a 72 circumference and my 90mm is a 62. So with the step up, step down, I can swap the filters between the two. My MacBook Pro is a 2010 model, 13-inch. I have some upgrades on it, but it's super old. That'll probably be the next big upgrade I want to do, is get a new MacBook Pro with the M3 chip, or maybe M2 chip. Second hand is okay for me. All of this body, lens, both lenses are second hand. So you don't need to buy a new camera to start. Buy a used camera. It's gonna be much cheaper. You're gonna feel much more at ease knowing that you didn't spend that much money without even knowing how to use a camera yet. I did go for a little bit higher price point because I wanted to use it for a long period of time before I upgrade. What else do I have in my bag? Charging cables, power banks, and yeah, that's it. I also used the DJI Osmo. Unfortunately, the motor is broken, so I cannot use that anymore. It's really sad, but it is what it is. So we'll move on from that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you didn't join me on the live stream, I will be posting this on my YouTube channel, and this series will continue until I reach my 4,000 watch hours, and perhaps even continue more, depending on how successful it is. If you guys like it, every week there will be something new that I'll be discussing. We will be locking down on some key points on photography, drone, editing, video stacking. Sorry, not video stacking. I don't even know how to do video stacking. Photo stacking. Yeah, it's gonna be great. This is gonna be a long journey, but one that I am looking forward to do with you guys and to learn with you guys and to hopefully teach you guys some things as we go on. So yeah, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you will tune in next time for the live stream if you haven't joined tonight. Take care and see you again.